Okay, this is actually a test. I'm testing some new equipment here at the ranch. Let's see how this works out. But I do want to rant. All right, so we'll accomplish two things here at once. So uh, I can't remember. My wife was reading something to me this morning and some article, and this happens a lot, so it doesn't really matter. Somebody was protesting or saying that we need to do something with the oil companies because the oil companies are causing climate change and they need to stop exacerbating creating whatever climate change. It's global heating, it's all their fault, and it's the oil companies and they need to stop, and we need to stop oil or something, right? And this happens all the time, and every time it happens she'll be reading this thing to me and she'll be saying, yeah, that's progress. I said, no, it isn't. It's completely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's not to say that global heating isn't a problem. It's a massive problem. It's an existential crisis. At the very least, it's going to destroy. At the very least, it's going to make this planet unrecognizable. Anybody alive today still tottering around in 20 years from now is going to find this place unrecognizable. Politically, uh, in terms of the maps, in terms of where the waterways are, in terms of where the coastal cities are or are not, in 20 years, this place is going to be a mess. So, who do you blame? It's the oil companies, right? They have all this oil and natural gas and the coal and all these energy companies, and the stuff gets burned, and the CO2 goes in the atmosphere. And what's that about? And then the greenhouse effect, and it warms the planet, and then the ice melts and the mangroves flood and the wetlands are lost, and CO2, and then it's a hot day, and then it's flooding, and then it's a drought, and it's all the oil companies, right? It's the oil companies. I say, no, it's not the oil companies. We can't blame the oil companies. I think this is an unmitigated disaster. I would never blame the oil companies for any of this, any part of this. And you can already see where I'm going with this, right? You can already tell what comes next, because the oil companies are just doing something that we all want them to do, and it's our fault that they're doing these things. And you could try this if you want to. I don't even encourage you to do it, but because it's just as a thought experiment, it's indisputable what would happen if you could go out onto the street, or to your local church, or to a school, or someplace where you're comfortable talking to people, and you could say, is global heating a problem? What do you think? Oh yeah, we need to really look into that. Okay, that's one question. Um, whose fault is global heating? Oh, the oil companies, the energy companies. I mean, look at what they're doing. They're just polluting, and it's so disgraceful. And now they've destroyed us all. What are we going to do with the oil companies? And so, yeah, that's a good point. So, are you going to stop burning gasoline? And the answer will be no, just hands down, straight up. And they'll look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean stop burning gasoline? No, of course not. What's that got to do with anything? Okay, fine. Are you going to? I mean, I assume that your house isn't all electric. Your hot water heater is probably gas, right? Your cooktop is probably gas. Your oven, those kinds of things. Are you going to swap all of those out for electric appliances, electric water heating? No, of course not. That's retarded. I mean, that would be so expensive. I mean, the equipment is expensive, and then you have to rewire your house to put all this expensive stuff in here that needs more electricity, and then the electricity is expensive. Natural gas is really cheap, and if I had to heat my water with electricity, my God, my bill would double or triple. I have to take shorter showers or something. I don't even know. So no, of course not. Of course, I'm not going to stop burning natural gas. What are you talking? Are you communist? What's your problem? You're asking me all these difficult questions. And that's when the energy companies just sit back, light up another cigar, and laugh. They're laughing at us. because they know as a fact. They just know. They know the same way I know that when the chips are down, when push comes to shove, no one's going to touch the oil companies. It's not because they have all these lobbyists and they have all this power in Congress and they bribe all these politicians. It's because they're laughing and smoking another cigar because they know that all they have to do, all they have to do, if some congressperson or regulator comes to them and says, "Hey, you have to stop removing crude oil out of the ground. You have to shut that down. You have to leave the coal in the ground. You have to stop fracking that natural gas. Just stop it." They're just going to say, "Okay, hold on," and they are going to metaphorically go out onto the street, pull someone aside, and says, "Is it okay if I, ExxonMobil, stop providing crude oil to America?" And that person is going to say no. And they could ask 1,000 people all up and down the street, thousands of people, 10,000 people, and the answer every single time would be no. No, you can't stop doing that. How do you feel about global heating? Is it a problem? Absolutely, it's a problem. We need to do something about that. Well, should we shut down the energy industry? Well, no, we can't do that. Do something else. You could ask 10,000 people at random. You get 10,000 answers, all pretty much the same thing. Global heating is a problem, and no, we can't shut down the fossil fuel pipeline. All of it. Coal, oil, natural gas, all of it has to flow, and we can't shut any of it down. Oh, and it has to be cheap. Not only can we not shut it down, we can't even put a price signal on that shit. Okay, we can't even make it expensive. Free would be good. Can I have it for free? Can I have gasoline for free? Can I have gasoline for 25 cents a gallon like my grandfather still, claims he remembers? That's what they want. That's what they really want. So this whole shit show, this entire kerfuffle is about us. It's us. We did this. We did this. We got rich. We got a lot of us. We got obese. Okay. And we're fat. We're rich. We're happy. We're safe. We love this life. We're living like actual, literal kings. Kings in the Middle Ages did not live anywhere close as well as we live. Even the poorest person in America lives better than the King of England in 1066. All right? Absolute fact. That guy didn't even have central heat. Didn't have electricity of any kind. Didn't have electric lights. When the sun went down, he was done. Either he was done or there was somebody, walking around with a candle everywhere he went. He had a candle holder, a designated person to illuminate his path as he stumbled around his uninsulated rock castle. Okay? Uninsulated, basically cold as ice, no central heat, and candles. And every single person in America, I don't care who you are, lives better than the King of England in the year 1066. And that's because of fossil fuels. And nobody alive today in America, not one person, except maybe Ted Kaczynski, oh, and he's dead, would want to live like the King of England in 1066. Because that's what you're going to get if you don't have fossil fuels. You're going to live like the King of England in 1066. It's going to suck. So no one's going to go after the fossil fuel industries, the fossil fuel sector. No one's going after those guys, and they know it. And they know it not because they paid for protection, but because as soon as anyone comes up with an actual proposal to stop fossil fuels, leave them in the ground. In the ground. Don't pump them out. Don't haul them out. Don't frack them out. In the ground. They will be hung from a lamppost. That person, as well-meaning as they are, will be hanged from a lamppost because it's not about the fossil fuel companies. It's about us. Now, if you want a scenario of what would happen, my wife and I have been having this conversation for probably 5 solid years. I've said this to her 1,000 times, at least 1,000 times. just like I'm going to say it to you 1,000 times at least. And I said it this way the first time I said it. I've never edited this appraisal once in 1,000 tellings, and I said it this way the first time. I don't know how we stop the flow of fossil fuels. I don't know. I believe someone's going to do it. That was my last rant yesterday. I don't. I someone's going to do it at some point. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I can tell you one thing. On that glorious day, maybe that day after, the day after they figure out how to turn it off, or figure out that it's time to turn it off and let the chips fall where they may. Okay. On that glorious day, the day after they shut off the fossil fuels, I can tell you exactly what the world is going to look like. The day after, not 100 years after, not 10 years after, the day after, I can tell you exactly what the world is going to look like. And this is your problem. The world is going to be no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, and that's a big one. That's a big deal. No movement of money and no jobs. When the fossil fuel spigot is finally turned off, I don't know how they're going to do that. They will do that. When they do that, the very next day, I can tell you what the world's going to look like. No driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. And if you stop and think about it, and if you have any sense, any common sense at all, if you have any sense of situational awareness, if you have as much sense as a reasonably intelligent 12-year-old, then that's, yeah, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I guess that's yes, that's true. Yeah, it's a little less true than it used to be because now we have a fair plethora of electric cars, um, whose electricity comes from some combination of burning coal or burning natural gas, right? Okay. Unless you bought your electric car and then you bought solar panels. Oh, and then you bought a battery to store the power for when you need it later to charge your car and all these other things. Okay. And but for those people who lined up all their ducks and figured all this stuff out and spent all the money, it's a lot of money. Trust me, I know all about this. They will be driving. But those people are, it's almost non-existent. There are lots of people driving a Tesla who don't have any solar power on their house of any kind, least of all a battery. Tesla will sell you a solar panel. They'll even sell you the batteries, Tesla Powerwall. But I don't know how many people buy those things, but my guess is it's a tiny fraction of Tesla owners. And Tesla owners or any other electric vehicle, just pick one, are a tiny fraction of vehicle owners. And the amount of miles that we could claim to be EV miles is a tiny fraction. And that does not include the 18-wheeler that delivers your groceries to the Whole Foods. That's just private people driving their private car themselves in their car, going to Starbucks to get their latte. Okay. That's the driving. The flying. There are no electric airplanes. There's some tests being done, and I follow this fairly closely. There's some interesting things going on. Generally, they're air taxi services, so they're kind of preparing to land on building rooftops of these high skyscrapers and whatnot. They're all like quadcopters or something like that, and they can vertically land and take off and then go horizontal. But they're air taxis, okay? And they're supposed to take you on short little jaunts, maybe from one rooftop to the other. It's hard to imagine. But, if you're that kind of person and you don't want to go down to the street level and mix with all the, untouchables, and you want to hop from one building top to another, well, there are air taxis now to do that. I don't think we have those here where we live, but they're around. Maybe LA, San Francisco, possibly. I doubt it. I don't think San Francisco has anything like that. But theoretically it's possible, but are there any such electric airplane type conveyances that can fly you from New York to London? No, not at all. So without constant copious application of fossil fuels, jet fuel, of course, then they don't fly. Movement of goods, I've already mentioned, that's your 18 wheelers. This all happens at 2 o'clock in the morning. You never see these things. They don't like to be on the roads with all you retarded drivers who don't know how to do anything on the road except cause accidents. They don't want to be anywhere on the road with you people. And they do all their driving late at night into the wee hours of the morning, and they show up at the all the shops, the Targets, the Trader Joe's, the Whole Foods, the Safeways. They show up and then they park their truck, and over the course of a day, they unload it, and then they leave at 2 o'clock the next morning. These people, you never see them, but they're all over cities like cockroaches, coming and going till all hours of the morning, and then by 8 a.m. they're gone. So that's your movement of goods. Movement of money, you won't have an economy without fossil fuels. Without fossil fuels, as soon as things start to go south, the banks will crash. The credit card companies will stop processing credit cards because no one wants to be the bag holder, right? Everything goes along. It's all hunky dory. You get a new credit card thrown in your mailbox every 6 weeks, but when the fossil fuels go away, all that's going to stop. There's not going to be any movement of money. And of course, your biggest problem is you're probably going to lose your job. If you're working in retail and those 18 wheelers aren't showing up every other day at 2 o'clock in the morning, then the shelves go bare and you're out of a job. Whatever it is they're selling, okay, the shelves are bare and you're out of a job. And once you're out of a job, then you're not buying anything. And once you're not buying anything, then the other retailers, they have to close up. Even if they're getting their deliveries and they're doing well, no one's spending money. And so the products don't move and they have to get rid of their employees. That's it within a week, 3 or 4 days. And if it's something as big a deal as someone shut off the fossil fuels, and I know that's like fantasy land, but trust me, it's not. If the day comes when someone shuts off the fossil fuel, all the big corporations, all the big businesses, all the chains out there, all going to look around themselves. They're going to say, how is this supposed to work? This doesn't work anymore. And, they just close up shop, send their employees home. A little bit like how, what happened with COVID, right? Send the employees home. If everything improves, we'll hire you back. So don't die. Be available, leave your name, email, and phone number with the receptionist as you take your stuff out, and we'll call you back in the order in which we need you. And then that call never comes, right? Because they never turned the fossil fuels back on, because that was not going to be the point. So when people say, oh, well, we're going to go after the oil companies, maybe we're going to stop oil, we're going to stop coal, we're going to stop the fracking, and we're not going to open up another drilling lease anywhere on the planet, and all this kind of stuff, we're going to change the world. And no, you're not going to do that. And if someone came to you and said, oh yeah, well, we'll shut down all the fracking and all the oil pumping, but you have to stop driving your car now, then you'll change your tune. You'll change your tune. In fact, we've already seen that. I think it's some movement. It's called Stop Oil. Stop Oil. And my wife was reading to me, oh, look at this, Stop Oil. This sounds interesting. They're going to stop the oil. They're saying stop oil. I said, no, they're not. Read further. I can tell you right now, they're not. I don't know what they're saying, but they're not saying that. They're not saying leave it in the ground, because that would be the third, the next part. Stop oil, leave it in the ground. But that's not what they're saying. And she looked into it. Oh yeah, sure enough. What they're really all about is no new oil leases, no new drilling, no new fracking. Okay, so the stuff we have now is okay, because that's also going to kill us all. All right. There is probably 3 degrees C, maybe even more, above baseline temperatures, just in what they have soda straws stuck into currently. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants to stop the oil. And if you push them on it, so what are you protesting? What do you really want? Well, we want clean coal and clean oil, and we want the energy companies to clean up the atmosphere and remove their product. Well, it's there because you're driving all the time. And you're flying across the planet all the time, and you're going to Whole Foods and getting all the food that came out of those 18 wheelers, and you drive to your job 40 minutes a day, and and when you're at your job, you go to the restaurant and eat the food, which also came in on an 18 wheeler, and you know that's all you. It's your fault. It's your fault that they have to pump all that oil. It's your fault that they have to pump all that natural gas. It's your fault that they have to mine all this coal and burn it in power plants. It's your fault. Well, it can't be my fault because I'm a perfect person. That's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks they're a perfect person. Can't be my fault. I'm great or whatever. I'm entitled or I'm white or I'm American or I'm rich or I went to college and I've got student loans. I have to have gasoline and diesel and natural gas and I'm entitled. I'm American. We're exceptional. Okay, everyone has their story, right? So when someone says stop oil, ask them, does that mean leave it in the ground? And they're going to look at you like, I don't know. I don't know if that's what it means. Can we do that? Is that a good idea? That sounds like that could be a problem. If we leave it all on the ground and never remove it from the I mean, I still need gasoline. I 40 minutes a day round trip to and from work and I got to pick up the kids at the school and the school is 5 miles the other direction and I don't think I could survive without oil, but oil's a problem. We need to fix something or somebody or throw someone in jail. I don't know. You know, do something. Do fix it. But don't leave it in the ground, right? No, don't leave it in the ground, but fix it. Got to fix this. All right. Well, that's all I want to say. It's our fault. We did this. Mostly America did this. Do I love my country? You'll say, oh, that sounds patriotic. It's true, is what it is. And what we didn't do ourselves, we taught other people how to do on our behalf. I don't know. I should make a video about getting to the lifeboats. What's a lifeboat? Maybe next time.